Yo, what's up, everyone? This is Terry with College Football Stop. Bringing you another show today. We got some stuff to get into. The Ohio State coaches met with the media yesterday, Coach Ryan Day and Jim Knowles. So they had some interesting things to say. And then I want to get into, can this Ohio State defense stop this Penn State offense? And I kind of did some digging and watched some film on Penn State. So kind of let you know what they do and if Ohio State will be able to successfully stop that. Obviously, today is October, what is it, 18th? So let's get into it. A couple days here to a big weekend of college football. So let's go ahead and get into it now. Okay, there we go. All right. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was just this weekend. Like I said, college football this has a lot of good games going on this weekend, and I wanted to talk about those games and kind of get into a little bit about each one. There's some that could have an impact on Ohio State's season. There's some that are just going to have a national impact period. So let's get into some of that. The first game that I wanted to talk about was Tennessee at Alabama. So obviously last year, everybody remembers Alabama uh, getting beat by Tennessee. They kind of took them up top, and Tennessee hung with them and went blow for blow and ended up winning the game at the end. So Tennessee this year is, I would say, probably not as good as last year because of their quarterback play. Obviously, they went from Hendon Hooker to Joe Milton, and a lot of people were excited about him, but I think they've kind of had to shift what they do. And I still have Bama making the playoffs. Um, I think that they're going to make it to the SEC championship and beat Georgia in the SEC championship. So I think Bama is going to win this game, especially being at home. They already lost a game at home this year. I believe they lost at home to Texas. Um, so again, I don't see Bama losing another game. I'm gonna say that they win that game, but I'll dig more into it a little bit later in the week. And then Minnesota at Iowa. So the reason why this one is important is actually a little different. So um, looking at the Big Ten East with Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan, if those three teams were to split games somehow, like obviously Ohio State beat Penn State, Penn State beat Michigan, Michigan beat Ohio State, something like that, right? I shouldn't have even said that. That didn't even feel right coming off the tongue. But anyway, if that were to happen, the way that it would be decided on which team goes to the conference championship is the record of basically the team on the West. So the West is trash, but whatever team on the West is the best that Ohio State, Michigan, or Penn State has beat, then that team will go into the Big Ten championship game. So looking at it right now, Michigan's kind of out of it because they don't have any other opponents on the West, and the people that they played on the West are not really good. It was Nebraska and I forget who else. But anyway, they're not good. Basically, it's down to Wisconsin and Iowa. Ohio State plays Wisconsin, so obviously they would have to win that game. But Iowa already beat Wisconsin, so they have the upper leg on them. So the Minnesota Iowa game is important because if you're an Ohio State fan, unfortunately we kind of have to root against Iowa now because if it came down to it, which I hope it doesn't, but if it did come down to it, we would need Wisconsin to be the higher ranked team out of Wisconsin and Iowa. All right, and then moving on, another just big game that is always a big one is Michigan at Michigan State at 7:30. Obviously that game gets rowdy. It's like a real rivalry game, so it may be fun to watch. Michigan State does have some football players over there, but Michigan is kind of just looking dominant this year. So I don't know. That's a good one to watch. Another one, Duke at Florida State. So Duke is, I think, a really good football team this year. They're actually ranked high in a lot of statistics for defense. Um, I do expect that they will be able to hang with Florida State in this game. Let me see. Got somebody in the chat here. Howdy. Yep, I agree, dude. OSU needs to take care of business, and I mean, I don't want it to be put on in that situation, obviously, because obviously that would mean that we would have to lose to Penn State or Michigan again. And I don't see that happening. I really think that we could beat both of them this year with how good our defense is, which that'll be a topic that I'll talk about a little bit later here. But if it did happen for whatever reason, man, it is important because having that extra game would get you into the playoffs. And, obviously we're not to the 12-team playoff yet. So just being a good team like that is not going to guarantee you a spot. But anyway, moving on. Like I said, Duke versus Florida State. I could actually see this being a game because Duke has a good defense to hang with Florida State, and Florida State's defense has not been great all year. Again, I mean it's at Florida State. If Florida State wins this game, they kind of have a walk to their conference championship. Other than they have to play Florida, so I mean that is a big game for the national landscape. And then the last one, before we get into some Ohio State stuff, Utah at USC. This one's at 8. Starts at 8 o'clock. Obviously, USC is a team that people had as a contender until they just kind of got stomped out by Notre Dame. I if Utah beats them, obviously that eliminates USC completely from the any like playoff contention. So I don't know, man. That could be a good game. I think Utah beat USC twice last year. I think so. I don't know. It's just something to watch. It's like I said, it's a big weekend of college football overall. All right, so like I said, I just wanted to go over some national games just because I like to pay attention to all that. I'm a big college football fan, so I'm gonna go ahead and get into some Ohio State stuff now. The coaches met with the media, and there was some cool things that they had to say. The first thing that I usually look at when checking out those interviews and whatnot is just kind of the overall demeanor of the coach. Like I think that Jim Knowles looks super relaxed, and he's like, "Yeah, my unit's doing good, and I know what I can do with them, and they all know what they can do. We're chilling. Like we're about to." I don't know. I love the demeanor, and he's had more of a like stuck up demeanor before, and or like an angry demeanor. Obviously, when his defense was not playing well, so I like that from him, and I hope that that translates, and this team just keeps getting better and better on defense, because I could see that happening. Like some of the things that they did last year, where they were blitzing a lot of people, if you start mixing those things in, this defense is going to be a problem. And I mean, and that's ultimately going to help them start to get like more sacks and all that, more negative plays. If they were to mix in some of that stuff, and I do think that it's going to happen, I think that they have the players to do it. Like our secondary is not going to get completely toasted this year like they did last year whenever we Jim Knowles decided to dial up a blitz. So I don't know. He seems like he's got just a chill vibe to him, and I love that. So, and then Ryan Day, he was really kind of like buttoned up like he usually is. He just kind of was like, "Look, I'm not going to tell you guys too much," and just I don't know. The one thing that Ryan Day did talk about that I thought was interesting was the Devin Brown quarterback package. Ryan Day seemed like he liked it. He seemed like he was excited about it. So I mean, I don't. I think that that package is here to stay. Ryan Day made it clear to point out to everybody that Devin Brown can throw the ball well. So it wasn't like he um, just made it a point like, yeah, that's a good package for us to run. He was like, look, don't forget Devin Brown can throw too. You know, we're comfortable with him throwing the ball. So I don't know. I think it's here to stay. And Ryan Day also said that when you add things like that to your playbook, your ultimate goal is to expand on that. So hopefully, if we see that, we get to see Devin Brown maybe like do a fake run, step back, and throw a pass. I mean, that could really help Ohio State's offense in the red zone. That's all I know. They were decent in the red zone. Or sorry, they were sorry. Let me rephrase that. They were really good in the red zone against Purdue. Now, some of that was obviously the Devin Brown package, but he did fumble on the goal line, so that was one red zone trip where they didn't score, and I think that was the only one actually. And Kyle McCord was a lot better in the red zone. So I mean, ultimately, if you're adding in a package like this, and at the very least, that's telling Kyle McCord like, look, dude, you're right. When you're the quarterback, the red zone offense is not working, and maybe that helps push Kyle McCord into focusing on what he needs to fix for the red zone offense to be better. Either way, it can't be a bad thing, and I think that Ryan Day is going to continue doing it, just simply because if it comes down to a short yardage situation, I mean those plays are going to work. That's just the way it is. You're adding an extra number, and I think that I don't think that play has went for a negative yardage at all this season, except for maybe the first time they did it against Indiana, where Jimmy Simmons just didn't block the guy he was supposed to block. Again, I mean, the offensive line is not really doing that too often anymore. They're starting to gel and get better. So I don't know. I think this package is here to stay, and I think that it can be a real weapon for Ohio State. Some people don't like it because it's a two quarterback system, but that's not really what it is. I mean, this package. Ryan Day has only used it inside like the 15-yard line. So we're not talking about a two quarterback system. We're talking about Kyle McCord. You're the quarterback. Kyle McCord, you're also going to be the quarterback sometimes inside the 15-yard line, but we may mix this in because this is something that is also successful. There's no other reason for, or no other way to look at it, in my opinion. So yeah. Anyway, I think that it's here to stay. Let me see what my dude Tax said here. Uh, yeah, I agree. It's gonna stay. Um, that pause and throw. That pause and throw is gonna be. I can't wait for it, dude. And honestly, I hope that Ryan Day will mix that package in, even not in the red zone. If it keeps being successful, like let's say that I don't know, I don't know. Obviously, taking Kyle McCord off the field is going to make some people upset. I'm not one of those people just because I've been very vocal about how I feel about how he's played. I am predicting for him to take another step forward this week. But let's say it's like 3rd down and 2. You bring out that Devin Brown package and you run it. You get it. The next time it's 4th down and 1. You bring out the Devin Brown package. You run it and you get it. Next time it's 3rd down and 3. You bring out the Devin Brown package and everybody's mixed in, and then Marv is one-on-one on the outside. Devin Brown can throw the ball up to Marv. You can't tell me he can't. I'm taking Marv against just about anybody in one-on-one. So, I don't know. I think there's a lot of things they can do with it. And Devin Brown has shown the ability to at least make throws. He's also been a little inconsistent, which, listen, I can agree to that. But at the same time, he hasn't had a ton of in-game reps to even learn how to be consistent. So, whatever. His playing time is inconsistent. He's probably going to be inconsistent. All right, let's see. He says, "What's hilarious? DB is a true passer, a pro-style quarterback." Yeah, I agree, and that's the thing that a lot of people are not seeing. And I think some of that's on Ryan Day because whenever Devin Brown is in the game, Ryan Day does run a lot of these run plays, even from Devin Brown's very first, his very first drive against Indiana. They ran the ball 3 times and that was it, and they got stopped. Like I said, that's the play where Jimmy Simmons missed his block completely. But Devin Brown is a true passing quarterback, and that's what he was in high school. That's what he came here to be. I think that he's just a little more athletic, and he's a little more. He has like fire to him when he's out there on the field, and that's the kind of player that the sky is the limit, especially with Ryan Day as someone who is developing him. So I hope we continue to see that package. Like I said, I don't want to go too much into it because I've been maybe too much vocal about how much I think Devin Brown is probably the better quarterback, but I think Kyle McCord will take a step further this week, and that's actually like I said, I'm going to be predicting that a little bit later in the week, and I have reasons though. I think that Kyle actually did take a step forward against Purdue, where in every single game before this game, he was not willing to let go of the ball. He was not willing to throw with any anticipation, not willing to take a one-on-one matchup, especially early in the game. He just was holding on to the ball, checking it down. He was not willing to actually throw the plays that were called. And he even said that himself last week when he was speaking to the media. This week, he showed me that he is willing to just let the ball rip and what happens, happens, and not play scared. And it worked out because all of our guys were winning one-on-one battles. Cade Stover, that dude's not a contested catch expert. Maybe he is now because he went out there against Purdue and he was mossing people. But the only reason why he was able to do that was because Kyle McCord let him do that. And I think that we have a play, or I shouldn't say a play. We have something that's there to us all the time that I used to see a ton when Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave were here, and that's just one-on-one back shoulder throws. If you throw that ball accurately, the receiver or the defensive back cannot defend it. There's nothing they can do. And Kyle McCord showed the ability to do that. So, I mean, he has the ability. He just has to be willing to throw the ball. Now, the next step that he needs to take, in my opinion, obviously not a quarterback expert, but just from watching the game, the next step he needs to take is his footwork. He was throwing a lot of like fadeaway passes. He was drifting himself into pressure against Purdue. So, he would take his normal drop, and then the pocket was clean where he could just probably stand right where he's at and step into the throw. Instead, he continues to drift back, and that allows the guys coming around the edge to put pressure on him. And that makes it like impossible for the tackles to block. I am predicting that this week he will take that step forward. I think that Ryan Day knows that. Obviously Ryan Day knows that. And I think that Ryan Day will focus on that this week. And I think that Kyle's going to come out this week and step into his throws, and he's going to be dealing. And I think that he probably ends up throwing an interception in this game. But honestly, I'm okay with that as long as he's showing the willingness to throw the ball the entire time, because having one turnover but the willingness to let your wide receivers be weapons, Ohio State should win this game. And that's going to take me into my next topic, okay? Because the reason why I think Ohio State should win this game if Kyle McCord does that is I think that our defense is going to be able to stop Penn State's offense. And I want to get more into that, but let me see what my dude in the chat here was saying. His awareness, his awareness increased this weekend. The drifting works, but he needs to understand the pocket. Yeah, and so going back to that before we get into the defense tax, the drifting worked against Purdue, which is fine because some of those throws were inaccurate that I think he could have made a more accurate throw. But having that extra second where you're having to throw the ball up more because you're drifting backwards and you can't put as much power on it, that could be the difference in a touchdown or a pass breakup against a team like Penn State. Like if you go back and watch the Penn State game last year, CJ Stroud really put on a masterclass in that game, and it made me really just remember how underappreciated CJ Stroud was to me because of some of his like willingness to run and whatnot, which I think was on Ryan Day. I kind of have a theory that Ryan Day stopped CJ Stroud from running the ball because he was not confident in his backup quarterback. I don't know. I mean, looking at what the play is now, you could kind of see that last year it probably wasn't very good. But anyway, going back and watching that game, CJ Stroud was making throws into windows that I think Kyle McCord can, but I just need to make sure that he's willing. Especially like some of the biggest conversions we had last year were like slants, where Marv was covered. CJ Stroud put it where only he could get it, and Marv caught the ball and got the first down. I think Kyle can do that. He showed that ability. He showed that ability with that throw to Cade Stover in the end zone where he put it in a window. I actually tweeted that out, and I gotta just take the L because I tweeted that out and I said, "Wow, what a catch by Kyle!" I'm sorry, what a catch by Cade, and this is not a great throw by Kyle. And then I watched it back and I noticed that there's a defender cutting across the screen where the only place that Kyle could have thrown that ball was right there. Now that doesn't mean that throw may not be intercepted if you're playing against a better team or a better person in coverage there, because it very well could have been. But at the same time, he threw it where I won't say only his guy could get it, but he threw it where his guy could still get it, and Cade Stover made a play. So it is what it is. Anyway, so let's move on to like I said, the main topic of the show was, can Ohio State's defense... Yeah, that window was closing fast. You're right. Sorry, I just got distracted by the chat. Can Ohio State's defense stop this Penn State offense? So I think that they're going to be able to. I think that the way that Penn State is going to be able to exploit Ohio State is going to be in the screens, because they run a lot of screens, and honestly, we've seen Ohio State get beat on screens this year. But at the same time, I think that's like a risk-reward type thing for Penn State, because while we've seen Ohio State get beat on screens, we've also seen Ohio State create like negative plays or big hits that generate momentum on screen plays. So I'm looking out for a guy like Josh Proctor this week to make some quick reads and to blow up some screens. And I don't know if Denzel Burke's going to play, but that's somewhere that his game has really accelerated this year. Is the ability to like fight off blocks and being physical in terms of making tackles. I don't know if he's going to play because he did get injured last game. So Jermaine Matthews. I'm talking about Alabama's wide receiver. I'm tripping. Anyway, Jermaine Matthews is a guy who I could see stepping in. I think he has the physicality and like the meanness to bust up some of those screenplays. So I don't know. That's one thing Ohio State really has to watch, because Penn State runs them really well, and they have big tight ends that can block in space, and that's something Ohio State struggles with sometimes in their screen game, but other teams are really good at that. Now, the one thing that I think is going to be an advantage for Ohio State with Penn State throwing a lot of screens and short passes is, I don't know what Larry Johnson is teaching different than most defensive lines, but Ohio State's defensive line seems to be phenomenal at batting down short passes. It seems like every game we have 3 or 4 batted down passes, and how many I don't can't remember the last time that we had 3 or 4 batted passes like our offense against someone's defense. So again, I think that could be a factor with them making a lot of short throws. Guys like JT Tuimoloau, Tyleik Williams, and even Jack Sawyer are really good at that. So that's definitely something to watch out for. I do want to kind of step back a little bit. Speaking of Jermaine Matthews, Jim Knowles actually was asked about him because of the situation I talked about where he may have to play with Denzel Burke being out. And Jim Knowles said he's got moxie. That's what and so basically to me, moxie means swag, but an old white Philadelphia dude, you know, in that kind of talk. So he kept saying he's got moxie and he's confident in him. And I think that's true. Anytime he's been on the field, he's been making plays. So the one area that I can see Penn State exploiting Ohio State's defense the most will be the linebackers and coverage. And then also, I will get into the run game. I think that could be a factor too. But let me see what my dude said here in the chat. OSU's defense will handle Penn State's offense. Yep. Cornerbacks will need to be physical. I agree. And I think that our cornerbacks are very physical. And I see your next thing here about Jack Sawyer and Kenyatta and Caden Curry. So, yeah, let's get into that actually, because before I move on to the linebackers and coverage, the defensive line, I think that they're starting to come together. Obviously, when you're playing against Purdue and they're not a great offensive line, they even got some backups in, you're not going to give too much credit for plays made. But guys like Jack Sawyer getting their first sack, guys like JT kind of just beating up on a team like that helps their confidence. And I think that that's one thing that those guys need is kind of a confidence boost to be like, look, I can kick the ass of the dude in front of me. And I think that they're going to start doing that. Jim knows too, when he talked, he did say that that he does call a lot of plays where the defensive ends are not free to do whatever they want to do in the rush. They kind of have to they kind of have to just square up with their guy and keep the guy from going outside. I don't hate that because we have one of the best interior lines in the country. So if Jim Knowles wants to have the edges kind of set the edge and let our interior guys go to work, that's something that you might see in this game because I don't think that the interior of Penn State's offensive line is that great. So I've been saying all year I think the ends are playing well. Jack Sawyer had one really bad game, I think, against Maryland, where he didn't look like he was playing well. He didn't look like himself at all to me. But I think they've been playing well. They've been doing what they're asked to do. They're just not being let loose to just go out there and kind of do whatever you want to do and give up any lane just to get past the guy and get to the quarterback. So I don't know. I look forward to that. I do want to move on, like I said, to the linebackers in coverage. Again, I think that this could be a problem. I think that we'll see a lot of Steel Chambers this week, believe it or not. I know that Cody Simon, Jim Knowles said, was neck and neck with Steel right now, which I can see why. Steel hasn't had his best year so far. I do think he's better in coverage than Cody Simon is. So it kind of worries me if we have Tommy Eichenberg and Cody Simon on the field at the same time. What that looks like in coverage, because when it happened against Notre Dame, they converted on like 3rd and 16 by throwing it over Cody Simon's head. So I don't know. I think that I wish Ohio State had another answer at linebacker so that way they didn't have to kind of switch these guys out like this or have one guy who's a liability in coverage, one guy who's a liability against the run. But I mean, I think that's what they're working with right now. Obviously, the CJ Hicks stuff is just not happening this year. He must have, some issues. Whatever. I don't want to get into that again. I talk about it a lot, but I do think that with the ability of Ohio State's safeties, I think it'll be okay. Like if they give up some catches over the middle, it's fine. The linebackers are not always going to be responsible for over the middle. Sometimes they move Sonny Styles into the middle of the field and let him be responsible for it. So again, I think Jim knows what he's doing. He's going to mix it up this week. I think that he's going to dial up some pressure, especially with guys like Sonny Styles, and then hopefully I want to see some pressure off the edge. I think that, like when I say that, like a corner blitz, I like that Jim knows is good to dial one of those up a game. So hopefully we'll see some of that. And I do think this Ohio State defense overall is going to be able to stop the Penn State offense. I think that uh, I mean, 17 points is a good number. That's kind of a when you're playing in a big game against a talent equal team, can you hold them under 17 points? I think that this Ohio State team can hold Penn State to 17 points or less. I genuinely do. When I watched Penn State, the thing that stood out to me was just their creativity and their plays, and then also like their ability to run the game or run the ball. Excuse me. Katron Allen is a beast, man, and so they really need to make sure that they're tackling well. But I think that our defensive line has been doing a good job this year of stopping the run, and then obviously we need the linebackers to have a better game. But I think that they will because I expect Jim Knowles to allow them to be a little more aggressive on downs where the team's probably going to run the ball. Again, like I said, I think Ohio State can really kind of put it to Penn State's offense. I don't know. I'm not saying the score is going to be a blowout because I don't know how much points our offense can score on them because they have a really good defense too. But I think this is going to be like a smash mouth football game. And I mean, I could see neither team reaching 20 points, honestly. But I could also see, like 30, one team getting to 30. It just depends how the game goes. Obviously, if turnovers start being a factor or something like that, anything can happen. But overall, Ohio State will hold Penn State to 17 or less. That's my guess. That's my prediction for this weekend. Since the overall topic is can Ohio State stop Penn State's offense? All right, so that's going to be it for today. If you guys have any questions or anything in the chat or want to talk about anything else, let me know. We'll hang out here for a minute because I actually have a couple things in the chat to catch up on. And then, so we'll get out of here. So Taxes says Sonny is the answer. Listen, man, I think that Sonny is the answer for a lot of our issues. But at the same time, I also think that you have to have other guys out there doing their job too for Sonny to be the answer. So I don't know because you can't just put Sonny at linebacker unless you're going to bring in Jordan Hancock. Now I think that could arguably, excuse me, be Ohio State's best defensive package is maybe Tommy Eichenberg, Sonny Styles, Jordan Hancock, Denzel Burke, Igmanosin, Josh Proctor, Lathan Ransom, and then your 4 down defensive linemen. So, and I would say if I was going to pick the best, I would probably say JTT, Tyleik Williams, Mike Hall, and that's tough. I want to see Kenyatta Jackson get more reps. Honestly, I think that he drew a hold on a play where he just kind of beat the guy and the dude grabbed him. I think that Kenyatta Jackson will be a playmaker if he just gets out there on the field. Hopefully they'll let him do it. Maybe he has. I think I've seen a few times this year where he had some assignment issues where he was supposed to hold the edge and then kind of got pushed inside or took the wrong. Thought the running back was going to go inside and try to swim inside and give up the edge. So, there's probably some of that. And I think Caden Curry did that last game too. That's probably why those guys are playing less than Jack Sawyer because he doesn't miss his assignment as much. But I want to see them guys out there, especially on passing downs where they can try to get after the quarterback a little bit. Oh, dude. Okay, so Mitchell Melton. Every time Mitchell Melton has been on the field this year, I feel like he's shined. I think did he get a sack against Purdue? I don't know. I know he got a pressure at least, but he looks like the fastest defensive lineman we have. And every time he's been on the field, he seems like he has the bend to get around the edge, and he's making plays. I don't know maybe he's still not 100% healthy. I don't know, but I would really like to see him out there, especially like I said on some passing downs. Maybe bring in like the Rushman package, maybe something like JTT, Tyleik, Caden Curry, Mitchell Melton. That would probably be really good, I would think, because Caden Curry can get after it on the inside, and I just don't think you take Tyleik Williams off the field. He's just been too good. All right, let me see, dude. Listen, let me talk about Tyleik Williams actually, because I'm kind of just going off of whatever we're talking about and going on to the next thing here. But Tyleik Williams is arguably the best football player on this team, in my opinion. Now, Obviously, there's other guys like Marvin Harrison, Denzel Burke, Emeka Egbuka, whatever. But man, Tyreek has been playing every single snap for a dude who's out there looking like he's like 360 pounds, 340 something. I don't know. He's a big dude, and he's out there playing almost every single snap, every game. And I think that he was good enough last year where he would have made an impact like he did this year, like he is this year, if he would have just been out there on the field. I mean, he's out there. I think he had like 3 pass breakups last game. Multiple times he's hitting people in the backfield. Like, man, and he was the guy who coming into the year, the beat writers and stuff were saying things like, "Oh, he needs to get his shit together because he's on his last leg." And I don't know what the hell they were talking about. Obviously, they had some information that I didn't have, but he just has came out this year and just been the best defensive lineman on the team, arguably the best defensive player. I mean, maybe him or Denzel Burke are probably the two that are in that conversation. I mean, I can't take anything away from the dude. I think he's going to be a first round pick lock. Like, I think we have Jalen Carter. We have a Jalen Carter type player on our team this year. If you go back and look at statistics, Jalen Carter was not someone who was racking up a ton of sacks or nothing like that. He was just out there beating the shit out of the guy in front of him and making things hard on the other team. And that's what Tyreek Williams does. I mean, I think we have that type of player on our team this year. And I think that we have a really good one next to him in Mike Hall Jr. So I don't know. I don't hate what they do with the defensive ends where they have them like cage in the quarterback. So that way, if those guys went up the middle, if the quarterback has to move, if the quarterback tries to get out to the right or left, those guys have the ability to hold them in the pocket. I don't hate that because I think that the interior defensive line is the best unit on the team. Or honestly, I don't know about best unit, whatever. The secondary as a whole is really good, but the interior defensive line, in terms of beating the guy in front of them, they are the best at that. So I don't know. I mean, I hope that we keep seeing that, and I hope that those guys start getting home because I want to see their stats continue to rack up. Just as a fan of a team, that's what you want to see. But I think that we have potentially 2 first round picks on our defensive line with JTT and with Tyreek Williams. Yep, and like Tax said, Tyreek and Mike Hall inside is just messing teams up. I even like Ty Hamilton. I like when Ty Hamilton's out there with Tyreek too, because he's just a big body dude that's not going to get moved. So if you want to double team him, go ahead. He's not getting moved. So, and I think that allows Tyreek to be a little more freestyle on his side. And again, just having a guy like that's a game wrecker, it's going to matter in big games. You can even look back at Penn State last year. I just rewatched the game yesterday. 4th down and 1. Penn State's moving the ball. I think they're on like the 30 or 40 yard line going in. 4th down and 1. And they do a handoff to the right, and Tyreek Williams just beats the shit out of the dude in front of him. I mean, just grabs the dude and just throws him to the ground and tackles the running back for a loss, turnover on downs. Those are the types of plays that win games. And we've had that this year from Tyreek Williams and Mike Hall and JTT. So I don't know, man. I don't think you can ask for more out of a defensive line. Nobody on this team is going to be Chase Young or Nick Bosa or even like Will Anderson, even though he was schemed up to make plays too. But none of these guys are going to be that type of player. But as a unit, this defensive line is really good, and nobody can tell me any different than that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here, guys. As always, like the video, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. I'll be live again tomorrow at 10 a.m., so we'll get it popping. We'll get into some more about this Ohio State versus Penn State game and some of these other games coming up. Peace out, guys, and you guys have a great day.